Okay, hi, good evening. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Slate DraftKings show. We take you up until 6 o'clock. We're here every weekday following Madden coverage on Twitch, YouTube. We're just here for you on YouTube. And also, of course, DK Nation on Twitter. That is where you can find the show. Brendan Glasheen and Jeff Ulrich to get to Monday Night Football, Colts and Steelers. We will also get to later in the week. A lot of injuries for the Buffalo Bills, and it's because of illness stuff, not because of actual injuries. Bills could be banged up in Foxborough on Thursday. That is the game we look ahead to. We can also look ahead to all of next week, but we begin by just talking about yesterday. And we can even leftover thoughts from Thursday's Thanksgiving slate. Jeff, I know you probably touched on a lot of this on the sweat this morning, but your Ravens hot take's pretty good. You think they're one and done again in the playoffs if they even get there?
Yeah, I don't even know if that's a hot take at this point. It's just where the team is headed, right? Defense giving up, as we said before, just a ton of points in the fourth quarter, not holding up games. Secondary just really not good, and then their offense is just getting. This is not very good. I mentioned Lamar Jackson yards per pass. He's below Russell Wilson this year. There's no big plays to be had right now. They're relying on third string tight ends. Obviously, you saw some drop passes last week too. And some of that might normalize, and Mark Andrews getting healthy again is going to be a big factor for this team if they do end up making a run, but I don't know if Andrews is going to be enough. Now you got Lamar Jackson clearly a little miffed. So it's not really a good conglomeration of scenarios forming for the Ravens. I also think the Bengals probably going to win that division. I think the Bengals looking really solid right now. Mm-hmm. And, the Ravens, some tough games down the stretch as well.
The photo of you in that graphic with the quote is
I didn't pick that. I just, makes it looks like I'm about ready to join the inside. There it is. Very excited
very excited
about the Ravens apparently this morning. So.
It's a Joker-esque grin.
It's very Joker-esque. That's what I was getting, vibes too. I just took the Joker, the Joker poison. Anyways, let's just move on.
So that might be a good call then. If you like the Bengals. So wait a minute. Have the Bengals, yes, Tucker had the game-winning field goal against Cincinnati. That's probably why the Ravens are minus 300 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Cincinnati's at plus 250. I think they do play again this year head to head.
They do. And it's kind of funny. I still think that the Bengals are very good. You look at that, why those odds are there. You mentioned the one reason, the tiebreaker. And that's obviously a big part of it. But the Ravens schedule, if you're fading the Ravens, you're really kind of fading them, because their schedule is actually, I don't know why I said it was tough. It's actually very soft. They play the Broncos next week, who we know are a disaster. Then they Steelers, which the Steelers at home are tough, but
yep.
And then the Browns, the Falcons, the Steelers again, and then the Bengals the last week. So I get why the odds are where they are, but at the same time, the Steelers always play the Ravens tough. They have to go to Pittsburgh. They'll probably get by the Broncos because the Broncos are just terrible. But Atlanta's proven themselves to be a capable team. The Browns are going to have Deshaun Watson back. The schedule isn't as easy as the odds are making it out to be, which I kind of find fascinating, to be honest. So, I wouldn't rate the Bengals that big of an underdog. I think the Bengals are clearly the better team, and you could analyze their schedule too. I know they got the Bills late in the season.
Yeah, well, I was just going to mention that they've played the bulk of the NFC South already. They've played Carolina, they've played New Orleans, they've played Atlanta. They still play Kansas City, which is their game next week.
Yeah.
Then they go home Browns, at Tampa, at New England, Buffalo, and then they close with the Ravens. So they're home 4 of their last 6, but those are all formidable opponents. And the Browns got them at their place too.
Yep.
Meaning in Cleveland.
I still think I would put the Bengals with Jamar Chase, and if they get Mixon back, I would put them in the same tier as the Chiefs and the Bills. I think they'll split those games. I'll take the Bengals over the Bucks. Certainly going to take them over the Browns at home. And then, if they split the games versus the Chiefs and Bills, you could very easily come down to week 18. And I don't really trust I think the other thing is I don't trust the Ravens. So I really don't mind betting The Bengals there. I mean, you don't have to make the bet. We're coming down to like the wire here, but I don't think there's any guarantee that like the Ravens just wipe their schedule here. I mean, they're going to be like, if they can't take care of Jacksonville when they're up, like, a couple scores in the fourth quarter, they're not locks in any of these. So I think the Bengals are clearly the better team. Obviously they got the tougher schedule, but should be a really interesting end to that division. I could certainly see the Ravens just kind of crumbling down the stretch. So
any interest in, because Cincinnati plays Kansas City this coming week, and that's relevant because if the Bengals were to knock off the Chiefs, they're at plus 1,000 right now to win the conference. So you're getting a much shorter number if they do win that game. So the value on the Bengals to win the conference, I think you got to get it now if they beat the Chiefs this week, which I know Kansas City looks really good.
I really want Jamar Chase back for this game, and I do want Mixon back, but the running back isn't as big a deal. We saw Samaje Perine work really well in the passing game, maybe even better than Joe Mixon has been working, which is really interesting. I'm going to throw some ATS stats out about Joe Burrow here, which are just like insane.
Impressive, right? They're good stats.
They're really impressive. Non-conference, 15-7 ATS since 2021, against non-division teams. Okay. So, again, really good as an underdog, 10-3 since 2021 ATS as an underdog.
And by the way, folks, they're a home dog. Bengals are a home dog.
Exactly. And again, I bring up the non-division record, but yeah, man, I'm taking the Bengals here. I think Jamar Chase will be back unless we get some negative news on Chase. You got a Chiefs team who, again, like they've kind of just been cruising, but their wide receiver core isn't good. Just in terms of health, not in terms of like just players, but they may be relying on Marquez Valdes-Scantling in this game a lot. Like it's not really the greatest scenario here. So with the way Joe Burrow's been playing, with the way their offensive line, I think the Bengals here getting massively undervalued. At the very least, I think this should be a pick 'em, not +2. The Bengals here, this will probably move. I would imagine, but maybe I don't know how much it will move. Interested to see the DraftKings betting splits, later in the week to see where the money's coming in on this game. I grabbed the piece of the Bengals this morning, and like I'll probably add to it as well at some point and just see where it goes. But really like the Bengals. Again, like this team is just cover machine the last 2 years, man. Insane.
16-3 against the number in their last 19 games.
Yeah, and that's just overall. Like I don't even know what. Yeah, I should have just thrown that off to start. I mean, it's just doesn't
and
really
two
matter.
of those losses were early in the year. Dallas covered against them when they had Cooper Rush at quarterback.
Yeah, and then the Burrow game where Joe Burrow missed a bunch of practice time in preseason, like the first game against the Steelers, and he turned the ball over like 6 times, and they almost won that game outright, which was insane in its own right. So Bengals, I think, really massively undervalued in just all markets right now.
Yep. And the key number, as we've discussed in the past about Mahomes and the Chiefs, is that number of 3. When he's a favorite of 3 or less, 17-5-1 against the number. If it's 3.5 or more, under 500 in his career against the number. So yeah, and the Chiefs have been better on the road against the spread with Mahomes than at home. Because when they're at home, they tend to be a bigger favorite. And
I mean, it is 2 of the best. I mean, it's 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, like no question. I think Burrow is absolutely a top 3 quarterback right now.
Yep.
And obviously Mahomes is Mahomes. So.
And last thing I can think of here, when's the last time the Chiefs faced a really good quarterback? Well, they beat the Chargers 30-27. Herbert, that was a good game. That's fair. But in their 5-game win streak, they've played Garoppolo, go ahead. No,
I was just going to say, I mean, I think the Chargers game is like a good point to bring up because they didn't win that game handily. Like, I mean, you remember like Herbert didn't have anyone in that game.
Yep. Josh Palmer was their number 1 receiver.
Right. So I think that's a good point to bring up. And that's why I'm saying like the Bengals with Chase, T. Higgins, and Boyd. And I think they take this game. I really do.
All right. Anything else from the weekend that kind of shifts your thinking and you're looking at it now into the week coming up here? We'll get to Monday Night Football in a second, but any other big picture thoughts that you want to get off your chest?
I mean, Oh, the Packers are on a bye this week, right? I just wanted to make sure. No, they're not. They play the Bears, right? So, I mean, like that's going to be
short number. We don't know about Fields. We don't know about Rodgers.
Yeah.
That fascinates me too, right?
I mean,
Rodgers has owned Chicago, owned them.
I think that taking the Packers here is absolutely fine. If you get no Fields here, like, okay, worst case scenario, if you take the Packers right now, you're going to get Jordan Love versus Justin Fields. That's not that bad a scenario. The Packers are still, probably the better team overall. They're going to have all their weapons. And like what we saw from Christian Watson and Jordan Love, you may want that side anyways. The other scenario is, Justin Fields doesn't play. And then it doesn't even matter which Green Bay quarterback you're going to get because this line is going to skyrocket. So there's a couple different scenarios. I would probably try and get like a Green Bay 2.5.
Yeah.
And go from there.
That's where it opened. It opened at 2.5.
Yeah. Not surprising. So interesting game to watch. If you're taking the Bears side, you obviously want Fields back in and are kind of banking. I don't even know what you're hoping for. Maybe you're hoping Rodgers plays injured or something, but like, it's kind of a weird game to figure. I think just taking the Packers side and rolling there. I don't think Rodgers will play personally, but
okay. I wanted to ask that question. So do you think the 3 that's Rodgers not playing baked in? Like, what if Aaron was playing? Is this almost a touchdown because of how well he's played against the Bears in his career? I'm asking. I have no idea.
I think you're right. No, I know it's hard to figure like all these different scenarios, right?
Because they're all so bad when he plays. That's the other part. Like the Packers are just very good.
Exactly. That's why I had to think about it before I wanted to throw my answer. But I think you're right. I think this has to be a bigger line if Aaron Rodgers plays and is healthy, right? But like how healthy, the other thing is like, how healthy is he going to be? I think everyone knows about the thumb issue now, and it's clearly affecting him. Like it affected him in the last game. So I think like I think the Green Bay side is kind of baked into this. Like if Rodgers plays and he's healthy, sure, it might move a bit, but like, I don't think it's going to move that much. I really don't. I think that like the big thing is like, what's going to happen on the Chicago side. So yeah, it's an interesting game. I just wanted to bring that up because I think hitting one side over the other early is probably smart. I think the side is Green Bay that we want to be on because like I said, I don't think this moves on any of the Green Bay news. I think that you need to be wary of the fact that you may be getting an injured Aaron Rodgers starting, which is probably actually worse than Jordan Love potentially. So
Jordan Love looked good. He did.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm making this out to be like, this isn't such a great edge after all, now that I'm thinking about it, but I think it's probably worthwhile taking the Packers. They're still a better team slightly. And, you get that chance if Fields not playing.
It reminds me of an early game this season when Green Bay was a short favorite. I think it was 4.5 at Washington. Heineke was the starter. Well, he was the starter filling in for Wentz. Now Heineke's been a covering and winning machine. But at the time, Heineke was filling in for Wentz and Washington won the game outright. But that was a game in which maybe if we know Aaron Rodgers is playing, that could move to a 4 or 4.5. I think he's definitely worth at least a point to this. But if you got 2.5, I think you'd feel better about it. That's for sure. And we don't know about Fields. We don't know about either quarterback. How about tonight? Pittsburgh game is in Indianapolis. Slight juice on the Indy spread at -2.5. There's all the stats about Mike Tomlin covering machine after week 5. He's like 70% against the spread. Jeff Saturday's 2-0 against the spread since becoming the coach.
Absolutely.
Colts. I think Colts were supposed to be a better team than they are now, right? Like they clearly underperformed. They kind of did Frank Reich dirty with the quarterback thing because now Matt Ryan's the starter again. But it feels like the Colts like very average meh team, but not terrible like personnel wise, and they're starting to play better. But so are the Steelers. So this makes it interesting. I think both teams are actually slightly trending up, playing better with what they were expected to be coming into the year. They're starting to match what they should have been, I think is what I'm trying to say.
In a lot of ways, they're very similar. They both have really strong defensive lines, kind of rely on their defense to like make plays. And then when they do, their quarterbacks get protected more because they can run the ball a little bit. Pittsburgh's been running the ball more. Najee Harris, a couple good games in a row, but I side slightly. Like this isn't what you call like my game of the week or anything like that. I side slightly with the Colts here. I think you look at the Steelers, they made the game close against the Bengals, but it really wasn't that close, to be honest. They just allowed a ton of receptions, whatever. They allowed the Bengals wide receivers just take over that game. They got hammered by the Eagles, and they beat the Saints. The big deal. You beat Andy Dalton at home.
Well, they only lost to the Eagles by 1.
Who did?
The Colts.
No, I'm talking about the Steelers, though.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah,
oh.
no. The Steelers, this is 3 weeks ago. I'm just going over the Steelers' recent wins and stuff like that. Sorry.
Okay, got it.
So, yeah, the Steelers haven't impressed me that much. I know they only lost by a touchdown to the Bengals, but again, it kind of comes back to my point. I don't think that the Steelers are necessarily going to be able to impose their will here. Maybe their defense gets them some plays, and that's certainly a scenario where they get them some plays, they put more pressure on Matt Ryan, and TJ Watt takes over. That's their path to winning. But if they have to rely on big plays from Kenny Pickett down to George Pickens, I just don't know if there's going to be enough of those. I think there'll be some. I think Freiermuth is really interesting too. Yeah. DFS, I like Pickens and Freiermuth, and for some over hits as well. If you're looking for 2 touchdown scores, I kind of like the Pat Freiermuth 2 touchdown prop tonight. That's a really big number. So that's something you could look at. And for same game parlays you're looking to put together, I would get some Freiermuth action in there. But I think overall the Colts have 3 wide receivers working. If they can just keep Matt Ryan upright, move the ball a little bit with Taylor, I think they're probably going to control this game with their defense as well. Pickett's just so inconsistent. So I lean slightly Colts here on the game line, but I'm almost more interested in just making props and betting props for this game. I think there's some good opportunities out there with a lot of the receivers to like I said, just have big nights.
There's Freiermuth plus 1,900 to score 2+ touchdowns, 2 or more. So 2 get you there.
19 targets last 2 games.
Yeah, and he's getting them in the red zone too with Pickett. Pretty sure the number is 5 red zone targets in the last couple of games now with Pickett. So Pickett looks his way, and they're not using Freiermuth as much as a blocker now. You move on from Claypool, and that's addition by subtraction when it comes to your point about finding attractive player props. The Steelers now have they're trying to make it more adaptable for a young quarterback. Hey, we'll give you the tight end as an option here, as opposed to blocking run first with Mitchell Trubisky. So specifically, are you looking receptions, yards with Freiermuth or Pickens?
With Pickens, I'd definitely be looking at his over props on the yards. You could look for longest catch. His ADOT is insane. Deep targets for Kenny Pickens for George Pickens. Pickett and Pickens, just that's going to be really annoying over the next decade. The receiving yards for Pickens,
if he lasts a decade, Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, Pickett might not. Pickens will. George Pickens' receiving total to me is still too low, 43.5. This was 41.5 last week, and he just killed it. It's not as good a matchup, I think, but still, I think you just keep taking the over there until it hits. And I know maybe, there's Freiermuth back up. Okay, I think they took Freiermuth off the board for a bit today. Yeah, his props are really juiced up. I think people have just been smashing the Freiermuth props. I haven't looked at the most bet props for this game, but he's at minus 170 now for the over. You can't hit that. That's too short. If I was going to play a Freiermuth, that's kind of why I brought up the 2 touchdown prop, because at this point, your best bet is to just go big. I don't think you want to lay that juice at all. But you can go longest reception for Freiermuth, 18.5. Pickens 18.5. Actually, I really like that for Pickens. Longest reception over 18.5. Like I said, the deep targets are there. His ADOT is 15 yards. So, we don't just get an average reception out of George Pickens, and then just a couple yards after the catch, and we're there. So, yeah, Pickens, looking at some overs for sure. I think that's still very bettable, but Freiermuth is a guy at this point. Yeah. You might even look to the player parlay section on DraftKings Sportsbook. I know there's some big odds on tap there, but like those guys for DFS for sure.
Julian Edlow has returned to work, and makes sense now. I'm just bringing that up because it's I'm welcoming him back very genuinely. Glad to see him back at work, and He was always on Twitter, but Edlow is back, and I'm actually being genuine here. He instead of Steve Buchanan, who deserves a break, he's been carrying the company, as he would say. Edlow has the splits up, and you're on the money. The second most bet player prop for tonight, George Pickens at over 41.5, which that number has moved to your point. And then Freiermuth. Wow. Freiermuth was at 42.5. Now at minus 140 odds, that's shifted quite a bit, but the yards have gone up. It's gone up 6 yards at minus 115 for the over, but you're on the money. Pickens yards, Freiermuth yards, Pickens receptions. All the overs are in the top 5 most bet for tonight.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, a little bit scary. I wouldn't at this number. You've missed it. Like, it's not a big deal. Pick another spot. We get games all the time. There's probably more opportunity on the other side of the ball, to be honest. Like Paris Campbell's prop has moved way up. All the receivers opened this game with like really low prop totals.
Speaks to the total.
And it's funny. Like the one guy who hasn't moved that much is Michael Pittman Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And like, like this secondary for the Steelers, you just on the Colts side of the ball, you just may see Michael Pittman. I almost called him Michael Pickens. Michael Pittman Jr. Just dominate this game with 9 catches and just absolutely toy with the secondary. That's how bad it is. So, we got a lot to choose from in the receivers. It's kind of weird for like 2 bad teams to have this many high end receivers, but like Pittman Jr. is the guy in the best spot. He's getting, his target share has gone down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of expect that to normalize a bit tonight. So I'm really big on him. Like for DFS, I know when you're building lineups, it's going to be a tendency to go down to those value guys, but like the safest receiver is by far Michael Pittman, in my opinion. I think he's got a chance to really put up a solid game here.
75 yards last week against Philly in a low scoring game.
And a tough defense in Philly. Like that is a tough secondary to put up even 75 yards against. So complete opposite tonight.
Yeah. Before Gardner Johnson got hurt against Green Bay. Yeah. That's a formidable secondary. Now the Colts have been one of the best under teams this year. Does that continue? That's probably why, right? That's probably why their receiving yards numbers, those props are so low, because the Colts have just been such a low scoring offense this year.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's, a lot of it's tied into Matt Ryan being the quarterback and, Jonathan Taylor as well. But, again, like you have to look at the opponent. And I think like the opponent here, and people are obviously cluing into this, is that, the Steelers really good against the run. I think they've allowed 2 rushers to go for over 80 yards on the season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they've allowed one 100-yard back. They may have allowed one, but, their secondary, second most, I think last in fantasy points allowed, catches. I think they're second last. Like they just seed a lot of catches, and they're going up against like 3 good receivers here. So again, I expect the Colts to attack here. I really do. And I just don't know if the Steelers are going to have the answers to it. Yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts this season to the under are
they're insane. They have some insane record, don't they?
They are 9-2 to the under this year.
Yeah.
Colts have been under in 14 of their last 16 games. And the other trendy pick with the Colts is they don't cover the first half spread.
They don't go. Okay. That's fair. Right. They've been slow starters. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the under here, I mean, like we're talking about a defense that just held like Jalen Hurts. And again, like they allowed less than 50 yards to Miles Sanders when they played the Eagles.
Yep.
Like this D line, there's a reason the Colts were favored. I mean, it's mainly because of their to win this division, to win their division at the start of the year, their defense was top notch. They got great players on the defensive line. It just didn't really gel because their offense was so bad and they were always under pressure and they had some injuries. But yeah, I would play the under here. I mean, again, if this over hits, it's probably because Indy, some of their players are going off. Indy gets 24, maybe even to 27. And then the Steelers are just getting, like, maybe Pickett gets like a garbage time touchdown to get them to 14 or 17. But, we're at that scenario. If you're taking the over, you're relying on Matt Ryan, to not stink. So I think Indy will move the ball. I think they'll still have their issues in the red zone and converting. And, like with the way the Indy defense is played, I mean, relying on the Steelers for a lot of points here could be heartbreaking as well. So it's a really weird game. We got a lot of like elite wide receivers that I think people want to bet overs on and want to hit on, but I would be wary of going too crazy here. A lot of these props have been juiced up at this point, almost worth taking unders on some of these players.
Yeah.
The only one I'm really confident on, to be honest, I'll give you two guys I'm really confident on. Freiermuth, we already mentioned the props move too much, and Michael Pittman Jr. After that, I think it's,
Okay, but when do you stop with Freiermuth, right? Like it opened at 42, or it was bet earlier today at 42.5 at minus 140. Is there a number in mind where you go, okay, it's at 51, say? Like, is there a threshold?
Yeah, no, I mean, like for considering the amount of targets that he's gotten over the last couple of weeks, I mean, I think that like even at 48, like with an under 50 prop,
yep,
you probably take the over, but it's certainly not the smash slam dunk that it was at like 43, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't have a problem. If you're looking at this game and you're saying like Freiermuth, like, projection wise, I still have him like for over 50 yards. So I can't sit here and say, take the under. And I feel the thing, and that's why I say, like, I feel confident about Pittman Jr. I feel confident about Freiermuth because the target share has been there. Yeah. You mentioned like they're not blocking with Freiermuth. He's out there running a ton of routes now. It's a great spot, and that should continue against a team in Indy who's got pretty good outside corners. So no reason to fade him there. Obviously, he gets to 50. Just give don't. But that's probably the one player why I brought him up first. Where still some confidence, just not as good a number as it was before.
Mike Tomlin, 41-20-2 against the spread as an underdog from week 5 on. That was the stat we brought up when we introduced the game. That's about 70%. And as of noon today, that's the latest I'm seeing from Edlow or Buchanan about splits. Money is coming in on the over. 65% of the handle on the over 39.5. And most of the money in terms of the side is coming in on the Colts. There you go. What else you like for the upcoming week? Any opening thoughts we already did that a little bit. We talked Cincinnati. We talked about, we talked about somebody else and I already forget. That was like
Packers.
The Packers. Yes. Thank you. The Packers. Yes. Packers and Bears. Anything else jump out at you before we say goodbye?
No, I mean, there's obviously like a lot of interesting games this week. You
concerned about Buffalo and all these guys that are sick? They're laying 5 against New England, who they have owned since Josh Allen turned around his career.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably just jump on the Bills. I mean,
yeah,
it's a sickness. It's early in the week. I don't know, man. I mean, we'll see. If obviously, maybe even wait again. Like it's Monday, right? So when the sickness news really takes hold tomorrow, we may get a shorter number. So actually, now that I'm thinking about it, probably wait for this number to go down. I think that by the time Sunday rolls around, you'll be getting more positive news. It won't be
Thursday. Game's Thursday.
Oh, right.
No, it's okay. I'm just,
no. I completely forgot. I completely spaced.
That's why I asked. Cause it's a short week. Not a short week. They all played on Thanksgiving. So regular week, kind of.
And even, that even goes more to the point where I think you may see this number drop down further in favor of the Pats. So it's probably good to wait unless you like the Pats side and you think this is a big deal, but it's illness. I mean, I'm not going to play doctor here or anything like that. I think that if you like the Bills, which I personally would prefer, I would be waiting on this, but just jumping on the Patriots here at +5, I don't think this number will get bigger. That's for sure. So,
folks, the last time they met, the Patriots couldn't make them punt. That was last time they met, was the playoff game in January.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was ugly, right?
Really?
I mean, before that, they also won like the ugliest game of, the last 2 decades where, Mac Jones threw the ball 3 times.
It was this coming week a year ago. This exact coming weekend a year ago was the Buffalo. Yeah. It was hyped up to be snow, but it was really about the wind. Yeah, Mac Jones only threw the ball 3 times.
Legitimately, the
Patriots running game is legit. I do believe in the running game, but the passing game and Mac Jones had his best game of his career, or his best game this season, I should say.
It probably was the best game of his career, to be honest.
Could have been. Yep, they opened it up, got the tight end involved.
Yeah,
I think it was a catch. Anyway.
I do too, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, if you like the Bills, wait. If you like the Patriots, I would get on it now. That's how I feel about that game. I haven't really decided yet. Clearly, I didn't even know it was on Thursday. So
yeah. Well, and both these two teams were practicing. They were doing their regular. It would have been like a Tuesday. If this was a regular Sunday to Sunday situation, they would have been doing. They're already in the middle of their week because they played Thursday, and both teams played Thursday. They play Thursday this week, so it's a regular week for them. They're already midway through their week. We're just starting our week.
I'll throw out a couple other lines I like, early ones.
Cool.
I got it. It's going to be ugly, but I don't mind the Broncos getting 8.5 points.
Oh God, we're going.
Yeah, I know, but like asking the Ravens to cover 8.5 points at this, the Broncos suck at scoring, but like the Ravens themselves, I mean, they can't stop anyone, and then through the air especially, and then you're also got an offense that's very limited just in terms of passing the ball. So you could get a couple different scenarios where you get an ugly game, where you get the Broncos potentially like having a small breakout. I just think that's too many points.
Peter King also reported today that the Broncos are expected to fire Hackett after his first season.
Yeah.
King said, "I will not be surprised if Hackett makes it to the end of the season, but I will be extremely surprised if he isn't one and done." Look, that defense has been phenomenal. There's that stat. If the Broncos had scored at least 18 points, which their last two, they would have lost, even if they scored 18, but their record would have been like 8-2 or 8-1. At what point though, does that defense just go, we're doing everything we can here, and it's just going off? Does it go off the rails? It probably already should have at this point. So that defense has been so good. But yeah, you make good points about the Ravens. What have they done to prove it's the Lamar show, and it's all relying on Lamar?
Yep. We already touched on the Bengals. That was the other game we talked about. That's probably my favorite spot to jump on early.
Yep.
And I'll stand here for a couple teams. I actually don't hate jumping on the Colts at +9, like early, regardless of what happens in this game.
Okay.
And I really don't hate the Chargers at -2.5. I know the Chargers are up and down, but you know what? Like, that was a solid win. Like, Arizona at home with a healthy Kyler and DeAndre, it's not as easy as people may make it out to be. And the Chargers are a good team. They got it done. Herbert, you get another week of Keenan Allen back. I think that line's too small. You'll probably see that one move too. So that's one I'd think about. I'm
curious about not so much of I think Dallas is a very formidable team and they're in the mix, but keep an eye on Dallas these next 3 weeks, because their schedule gets really soft. And I only bring that up because do we trust the Dallas Cowboys? Because as we saw, Giants backdoor cover on Thursday, and Cowboys laid 10 points at home on Thanksgiving, and they look good. Don't get me wrong. They had to come back, and then they were covering, and then they didn't. But their schedule here gets interesting because they're going to definitely be a touchdown minimum favorite their next 3 games.
I don't know why.
Jags. Maybe not the Jags. They're at the Jags. That might not be the case, but
I don't know why the Colts are in prime time. Are they on the Sunday night game? Like, why are we getting the Colts in prime time 2 weeks in a row? Why aren't the Chiefs and the Bengals on Sunday Night Football next week? Did they flex it out yet? I guess they didn't, because it would have changed on DraftKings.
Well, listen to this, right? So it's Dallas, Indy, and then the following week is Denver, Kansas City. It's because of the Broncos. The Broncos took all these primetime games because of Russ. I'm telling you. It's freaking Russell Wilson. That's why, because they put Russ in all these primetime.
Instead of Burrow and Mahomes, we're getting Matt Ryan, and then the next week, who knows what we're missing?
I think it's Denver, Kansas City. I think it's Russ at Mahomes for Sunday Night Football. That's the following week. I'll double check.
Amazing how much things have changed. Everyone, that would have been that was like the highlighted game of the year
for the division. All of it. Yep, it's December 11th, which I hope they can flex that out. I certainly hope so.
I read something today. I don't think they're going to. I think they tried or something. Maybe I misread it. I can't remember.
Denver, Kansas City, and then to make matters worse, on your Christmas day, Denver at the Rams, 4:30, middle of your Christmas. You get those 2 teams. Aaron Donald is now apparently hurt. That's the latest reporting. So yeah, look forward to that. Denver Rams while you're opening your presents.
That's just disgusting. Looks like the looks like the league has till tomorrow to flex out the Chiefs and Broncos, but yeah.
So it's probably like a 2-week rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I still don't know why they didn't flex out the Colts, but
yeah,
whatever.
Real quick and personal story. I'm going to be at the Pats Raiders game in Vegas, December 18th. That's an 8:20 game. The Raiders are out of it, which they've won their last 2. Who knows? But they could flex that out too. And so I can make it to the airport to fly out Sunday night in one piece. I know there's a time difference, but it would just make it easier if they play the game at 4 local time in Eastern Standard Time, and if it's at 1:00 in Vegas as opposed to 4, it makes it easier. We'll see. I think we're going to get a lot of flexes with these games because teams like Vegas, Denver, Indy have not performed to expectation.
Yep.
So, but yeah, you can't flex. You can't flex Christmas Day 4:30. That's staying where it is. It's terrible.
What a horrible present. What did
Denver,
we do to deserve that?
Rams. That would have been a great game when you look at the schedule and you're like, nope, terrible. Okay, we got to go. It's past 6. We're back tomorrow, same time. We'll be live on YouTube just after the Madden Sim over on Twitch. We go live on YouTube, and we're also live at DK Nation on Twitter. YouTube chat available, Twitch chat available for the slate. Be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time for the sweat. You on the sweat tomorrow, Jeff?
You bet, man.
All right, good deal. Okay, thanks to Eamon and Andrew. For Jeff Ulrich, Brendan Glass-Jean, you have a great night. Have some fun watching the game, and we'll see you tomorrow.